Most consistent message was that we got to bring everybody along. So she knew that if we just made life better for one segment of society, it wouldn't work. The whole place needed to be changed. She personified an era when Hawaii was truly committed to trying to make the world better.
We're all heavily influenced by Akwan and her commitment to labor and to justice and social justice. She had an enormous impact on the union and had to do it very quietly and with a lot of dignity.
She was a leader of Hawaii among men and among women. She was a visionary, articulate, dedicated, committed woman who was instrumental in improving the lives of everyday working people in our islands.
Akwan passed away peacefully on December 11th, 2008. According to her wishes, her family held a private funeral service. However, in February of 2009, the ILWU held a memorial service that was attended by hundreds of her friends and admirers. Akwan's life will forever remain an example of courage, compassion, and boundless humanitarian goodness. She was dedicated to improving the lives of others, and she never gave up her belief that a fair economic system through unionism would be the key to equality, justice, and peace in our world.
And that is a determination for you to make. To think with clarity about your ideas, to understand why it is that you are where you are, but for the organizing of workers at the lowest level in agribusiness. That's for you to decide, that we would not have the rights which we now enjoy here in this state, free mostly from race prejudice, cultural prejudice, sexual orientation prejudice, name it, we had it. And the only reason why we pretty much don't have that stranglehold over our lives is because at one time, those workers were courageous enough to take on the bosses and to fight the battle and to realize that the good which they brought, in fact, emanated to the rest of the neighborhood and to the rest of the territory and the rest of the state of Hawaii. And there is absolutely no way in which there can be any improvement made in our lives until everyone in this room will go on out and recruit another person so that, in fact, that which promoted the labor movement years ago with the dream of a world with peace, a world without war, will not occur unless we go on out and act to work with one other person and say, will you work with me?
This program is brought to you in part through the generous support from the University of Hawaii Foundation and the Barbara Cox Anthony Endowment, Thompson School of Social Work and Public Health, University of Hawaii at Manoa.
Support for World on Ozarks Public Television is provided by Citizens Memorial Hospital, committed to meeting Southwest Missouri's healthcare needs through new locations, facility upgrades, staffing, and robotic technology. Healthcare reminds us every story matters and every life is part of a larger story. Citizens Memorial Hospital, proudly supporting World and the stories that connect us all. Information at citizensmemorial.com. Fisk Transportation, proud to support OPT World because strong communities are built on understanding and connection. The World Channel provides programming that opens windows to the world through culture, education, and conversation. Fisk Transportation, offering a variety of public and private passenger transportation services in the 4-state region since 1975. Reservations and quote information at fisklimo.com.
I was finally going to be an independent woman in my motherland without my mother.
And so I pick up the card, and inside it reads, "Will you marry me?" And I think, not bad.
For 33 years, across more than 1,500 episodes, Firing Line provided a platform for a substantive and balanced exchange of opinion. Today, we live in a time when meaningful discourse is needed more than ever.
Welcome to Firing Line, Secretary Condoleezza Rice.
It's great to be with you.
Our mission is to renew the Firing Line tradition for a new generation and engage in a debate about the America we want to create in the 21st century. Please join me.
Hello, I'm former Congressman John Katko. Join me for Balancing Act, the show that aims to tame the political circus of two-party politics. Each week, opposing sides share the spotlight to discuss a divisive political issue. No ranting, just reason. Balancing Act with John Katko, Saturdays at 6 p.m. and Sundays at 4 p.m. on World.
I'm in shock.
Oh my God.
You ready to meet your DNA cousin?
That's why I'm here. What's up, cuz?
It's like learning there's a new room in your house.
Is that not freaky?
That's freaky.
This is the fun part.
It's incredible.
Look at all this history. It's amazing.
And it's all connected. Did you ever think about your great-grandfather?
Now there is a need to this person.
I was about 8 years old. My mother told me the story of her upbringing in Philadelphia and how the family was connected to the earliest history of Philadelphia, to the first mayor. And I was a little curious about that because I didn't think there was an African-American mayor of Philadelphia in 1691. But of course, I learned later on how it all evolved.
With the Montiers, they were free from the 18th century forward, and so they had an especially unique family history and legacy that they were able to bring forward into the 21st century.
It's a Philadelphia story. It's embedded in the history of this town. We're talking 300 years plus.
It was a story, like many stories of African Americans, that had, I think, been swept under the rug, so to speak.
A story that begins with the founding of Philadelphia by William Penn in 1682 and the man Penn appointed first mayor of the city, Humphrey Moray. Leading up to a historic home in the Glenside section of Cheltenham, Pennsylvania, and rare 19th century portraits hanging in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. In 1681, King Charles II of England granted Penn a large area of land that included Pennsylvania to repay a debt owed Penn's father.
William Penn was a Quaker, and most of his customers that bought properties were Quaker. They were escaping the religious persecution that was existing in England and the rest of Europe at the time. William Penn was a very smart marketer. Everybody wanted property.